Welcome. My name is Jeannie. I'm Elma and Merritt's only daughter. This is a collage of my mother through the years. This is Mom in one of her gardens. She said she had to own a piece of the earth and she always had a garden. There are two of her many birthday balloon pictures. The top left is her 77th birthday. My nieces brought over carloads of balloons until they had 77 of them scattered around her backyard for a birthday surprise. Mom wrote an article for the White Triangle News entitled, "How Did a Nice Girl Like Me Get in the Hudson Club?" And today I will answer that question. I know my dad was young and in love because he let my mother and her girlfriend sit on the roof of his 29 Essex. Her father was a farmer, her mother a city girl turned farmer's wife. This is her parents on their wedding day. At the age of 16, her mother died, and suddenly she was responsible for her mother's farm chores. This is Mom, around 16 years old. She pleaded with her father to allow her to finish high school. He agreed if she would cook breakfast and lunch for the family and workers before leaving for school. To do that, she had to get up very early, even on frigid Pennsylvania mornings, to fire up the wood-burning cooking stove. And after preparing and storing the meals, she walked 3/4 of a mile to the bus stop. This is a picture of the family farm on the right. On the left is the old homestead was still standing. Well, barely standing. She loved high school for many reasons, one being the social aspect, something she didn't get living on a country farm. Mom is second in line, signing up for a school activity. She enjoyed writing for the school newspaper and yearbook, and won prizes for articles written for Pittsburgh papers. This is the yearbook staff in high school. She's sitting on the left. After preparing a wonderful birthday dinner for her father, Mom went roller skating with friends. At the skating rink drinking fountain, a mutual friend introduced her to my dad. He would jokingly say, "If I'd only taken a drink," and she would reply, "Well, maybe I should have stayed home and baked my dad a cake." This is a recent picture of the building. But they were both truly grateful for that night of friendship and skating because they found their soulmate. I think this picture is self-explanatory. When we were in Pittsburgh for Mom and Dad's memorial service, Roy and I went to that skating rink, now a storage warehouse. At the back of the building, we were surprised to find a beautiful grand piano. That part of the warehouse is a piano store. There was no water fountain, but over the spot where it used to be was a framed picture of Mozart. This picture is Roy, me, and Mozart at the spot where Mom and Dad met. Dad had a marvelous singing voice, but he never knew all the words to a song. Mom didn't sing, but she knew popular music. Dad would drive his Hudson through the beautiful Allegheny countryside, and Mom would feed him the words to popular songs. This is Mom at the farm, leaning on Dad's Hudson. They made beautiful music together for over 60 years. After 3 kids and many cold Pennsylvania winters, they decided to move to sunny Florida. This is a picture of the family just a couple years before moving to Florida. Mom said that first year in Florida, we went to the beach every day. After 3 kids, look at them looking at each other like they just fell in love. George, Roy, and me. My dad and his father cleared the land and built our home and a gas station. This is the house in the process of being built. the completed gas station. Dad painted this antique car on the side wall of the gas station. It was in this house that Dad started the Hudson Club. Many HET members stopped by while Dad was at work. Mom would visit with them until Dad got home, and she could stretch dinner to include a single guest or a whole family, and she did it while being a wonderful hostess. This is the house shortly after completion. Dad agreed to write the articles and print the newsletter on a hand-cranked mimeograph machine. That meant Mom had to type the newsletter on a stencil, not an easy job. More importantly, she gave up a dinner table 1 week a month while the newsletter was printed. Instead of dinner on the table, there were stacks of papers, a typewriter, and a mimeograph machine. This is the first white triangle news printed on that hand-cranked machine. You can tell by the lettering that it was a mimeographed newsletter, not a great quality. In the 1960s, Dad had letterhead printed with a red Essex logo. It added a touch of professionalism. We never dreamed that mimeographed newsletter would turn into the beautiful, professional, award-winning magazine that it is today. Mom was a stay-at-home mother for us, as well as my 2 cousins next door. And at her celebration of life service, one of those cousins said she was the original Martha Stewart. I can't think of a better way to describe my mother than as the original Martha Stewart. She made a quilt for me using fabric from dresses she had sewed for me from the time I was a little girl through high school. And she used antique car fabric to make a dress for my Betsy McCall doll, one for me and one for her. So we had matching antique car dresses. This is Mom on wash day. My cousin also talked about her peep eggs. She used a plastic egg to mold a sugar egg in both halves. She would choose pictures especially for each of us, and they would be secured to the bottom with icing. The 2 halves would be iced together, it would be decorated, and at the back was a little peephole so we could peep in and see our pictures. We loved our peep eggs. And this is my family at Easter in the 1950s. Sugar eggs don't last long in Florida humidity, and she began decorating eggshells. She would blow out the egg, cut an oval on the side of the shell, decorate it, and glue little bunnies inside. These are 2 of her decorated eggshells. Her Halloween costumes were legendary. One year, my brother George was a pirate, with one leg tied up to the knee. The same year, Roy was a scarecrow with a board on his back. But we lived in the country, which meant we had to get in and out of a Hudson to go trick-or-treating. Not easy with those costumes. George on the left as a pirate, Roy on the right as a scarecrow. The most unusual costume she designed for me was when she made a front door from a large box. Trouble is, she didn't teach me to walk sideways in my door box. As I was taking baby steps, the kids paraded around the school and past the judges and me several times. By the time I reached the judges' table, they said they had given all the prizes away, but I would have won. And darned if I didn't want to win because the prize was carnival tickets. That's me in my door box. The first HET meet was held in Natural Bridge, Virginia, and Dad pulled his 29 Essex with his 54 Hudson because he wasn't sure there'd be any older HET cars at the meet. He was worried about older cars. I was worried there wouldn't be any Hudsons. I was sure my dad was the only Hudson nut. Obviously, I was wrong. This is a picture of some of the attendees at that first meet. Mom and Dad are on the right, proving behind every good man, there's a good woman. At the very first HET business meeting, it was decided not to have competitive judging in the Hudson Club. And many members have told Mom and Dad over the years that they think that decision contributed to making this a great club. Dad did, however, have 4 non-competitive trophies at that first meet. 2 with a step-down Hudson, 2 with an antique car. Ken Pointer found one of those Hudson trophies on eBay. It's back in the club today where it belongs. This is a picture of that first trophy when it was on display in 2009 at the national meet. My favorite picture of the first meet is my mom sitting at a card table in the parking lot. She was an organizer, whether planning a birthday party, school carnival, or vacation Bible school. You could be sure it would be a lot of fun and well organized. I believe the first meet was a success, partially because of her planning and careful attention to detail. I like her sweater thrown over her shoulders and noticed the portable typewriter at her feet and the cute little basket purse. Roy found my original name tag from the first meet, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But when I started preparing this talk, I wondered, did they cut out an antique car for everyone? So I zoomed in to the group picture, and sure enough, there were antique car name tags. I think that's why that typewriter was there, in case additional ones were needed. That's what I mean when I say careful attention to detail. And that's my name tag from the first meet. Fast forward to the 25th HET anniversary meet, also held in Natural Bridge, Virginia. Mom was asked to speak at the banquet. The speech was titled, HET Women Are Great Women. You have to realize she had 25 years of information of what it's like to live with a man who collects and restores old cars. The women were laughing, but the men were roaring with laughter. They knew it was all true. This is Mom practicing her speech in Dad's HET room. Dad was to speak next. And after Mom's rousing applause and standing ovation, he got a laugh too by saying, "Now that's a hard act to follow." This is Mom giving her speech at the banquet and Dad standing beside her. Mom was seen in a different light after that speech. When Dad was introduced as founder, Mom was introduced as co-founder. She was treated royally and embraced and loved by her HET family. This is Mom, Dad, and Bill Chapman. The Orange Blossom chapter was especially kind and loving to my mother. Several women made her a gorgeous quilt with 100 signatures of HET members, embroidered on bright, cheerful fabric or butterflies and the inscription, "Orange Blossom Women Honor Our Hudson Mother, Elma Marks." It was great timing. She was in the beginning stages of her illness and had a hospital bed moved to the front room. She had that lovely quilt hung on the wall where she could look at it and, in her own words, feel the love. This is Mom receiving the quilt from Karen Smoke at Wright. She was instrumental in having the quilt made. The Orange Blossom chapter also gave her a clock inscribed with the following: in recognition and appreciation of her supreme efforts as the founding mother of the HET Club. Her reply, "Merit put the club together, I just followed. But she did more, much more." And this is the clock given to her by the Orange Blossom chapter. In answer to her question, how did a nice girl like me get into a Hudson Club? That's how she got into the club, and that's how the club loved and embraced her. This is Mom and Dad in Roy's 1927 Essex. It is also on the cover of the tribute book I made after Mom and Dad passed away. The booklet has Dad's farewell letter to HET, several articles, and Mom's 25th anniversary speech, which I believe will give you a chuckle or two. The tribute booklet is available on the Hudson Essex Terraplane website. Mom wrote at the first meet, as the men talked Hudson's in the parking lot, the women sat on the porch of the old wooden hotel sharing stories of life for the Hudson man, and there was laughter and friendship. This is the first meet parking lot where the men talked Hudson's and the old hotel in the background. Shortly after the first annual meet, neighborhood meets were taking place, precursors to chapters, and women were more involved. Mom said because Hudson owners need to eat and cars need to be polished. At that time, there was discussion about starting a women's auxiliary, but the women decided they were working alongside the men and they wanted to keep it that way. To that, Mom said, the HET Club may have been the first equal opportunity club. This is HET Women at a Meet. Mom is in the center with a pink flower on her blouse. I'm sitting on her right. Elma Marks is at the far right. Mom wanted the women of the club to feel welcome and enjoy the meets as much as the men, and I believe that's true today. Activities are planned for the women. Women make beautiful items to raise money for the club. And after reading the June issue of WTN, I learned HET women also make items for charity. Kudos. Widows stay involved, and good friends are made with people we only see once a year. But more importantly, as Mom said in her 25th anniversary speech, it's got to be a great club when you know as much about the kids as you do about the cars. This is Mom and Janet Carroll in the early 1980s. Mom was the voice of HET women, and her speech titles reflect that. HET women are great women. To the women of HET, in appreciation of Hudson wives. Thanks, HET women, for all you do to keep this club great. Thanks, Becky, for helping John plan this meet and for all you do for the Dahlonega, Georgia meets. And John, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share memories of my mom, Elma.